Arsenic and Old Lace, Act 1. Time, late afternoon, September. Present. Place, the living room of an old Brewster home in Brooklyn, New York. It is just as Victorian as the two sisters, Abby and Martha Brewster, who occupy the house with their nephew Teddy. There is a suitcase. You are leading upright, leading to the upper floor, broken by a landing with a window looking out on the front porch. At the top of the stairs, a balcony with a door leading to bedrooms and an archway beyond which are stairs to the top floor. There is a large window down left, below which is a long window seat. There is a door upstage center that leads to the cellar, another to the left of it, which leads to the kitchen, and at right the main door of the house, which opens onto the porch down right. When the curtain rises, Abby Brewster, a plump little darling in her late 60s, is presiding at the tea table. The table is lighted by candles. Seated in an armchair at her left is Reverend Dr. Harper, and on her right standing her nephew Teddy, whose costume includes a frock coat, a pince-nez attached to a black ribbon. Teddy, in his 40s, has a large black mustache, and his manner and makeup suggest Theodore Roosevelt.
Yes, indeed. My sister Martha and I have been talking all week about your sermon last Sunday. It's really wonderful, Dr. Harper. In only 2 short years, you've taken on the spirit of Brooklyn.
Oh, that's very gratifying, Miss Brewster.
You see, living here next to the church all our lives, we've seen so many ministers come and go. The spirit of Brooklyn, we always say, is friendliness. And your sermons are not so much sermons as friendly talks.
Personally, I've always enjoyed my talks with Cardinal Gibbons. Or have I met him yet?
No, dear, not yet. Are the biscuits good?
Bully.
Won't you have another biscuit, Dr. Harper?
Oh, no, I'm afraid I have no appetite for dinner now. I always eat too many of your biscuits just to taste that lovely jam.
But you haven't tried the quince. We always put a little apple in it to take the tartness out.
Oh, no, thank you.
We'll send you over a jar.
No, you keep it here so I can be sure of having your biscuits with it.
I do hope they don't make us use that imitation flour again. I mean, with this war trouble. It may not be very charitable of me, but I've almost come to the conclusion that this Mr. Hitler isn't a Christian.
If only Europe were on another planet.
Europe, sir.
Yes, Teddy.
Point your gun the other way.
A gun?
Teddy?
To the west. There's your danger. There's your enemy, Japan.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Teddy.
No, Aunt Abby. No more talk. No such talk about Europe and more about the canal.
Well, let's not talk about the war. Will you have another cup of tea, dear?
No, thank you, Aunt Abby.
Dr. Harper?
No, thank you. I must admit, Miss Abby, that that war and violence seem far removed from these surroundings.
It is peaceful here, isn't it?
Yes, peaceful. The virtues of another day, they're all here in this house. This gentle virtues that went out with candlelight and good manners. And low taxes.
It's one of the oldest houses in Brooklyn. It's just as it was when Grandfather Brewster built and furnished it, except for the electricity, and we use it as little as possible. It was Mortimer who persuaded us to put it in.
I guess I can understand that your nephew Mortimer seems to live only by electric light.
Poor boy has to work so late. I understand he's taking Elaine with him to the theater again tonight. Teddy, your brother Mortimer will be here a little later.
Delighted.
We're so happy it's Elaine Mortimer takes to the theater with him.
Well, it's a new experience for me to wait up until 3 o'clock in the morning for my daughter to be brought home.
Oh, Dr. Harper, I hope you don't disapprove of Mortimer. We'd be so guilty if you did, Sister Martha and I. I mean, since it was here in our home that your daughter met Mortimer.
Of course, Miss Abby, and so I'll say immediately that I believe Mortimer himself to be quite a worthy gentleman. But I must also admit that I have watched the growing intimacy between him and my daughter with some trepidation. For one reason, Miss Abby.
You mean his stomach, Dr. Harper?
Stomach?
His dyspepsia. He's so bothered with it, poor boy.
No, Miss Abby. I'll be frank with you. I'm speaking of your nephew's unfortunate connection with the theater.
The theater? No, Dr. Harper. Mortimer writes for a New York newspaper.
I know, Miss Abby, I know. But a dramatic critic is one it's constantly exposed to the theater. And I don't doubt but some of them do develop an interest in it.
Well, not Mortimer. You need have no fear of that. Why, Mortimer hates the theater.
Eh?
Oh, yes, he writes awful things about the theater. But you can't blame him, poor boy. He was so happy writing about real estate, which he really knew something about. And then they just made him take this terrible night position.
My.
But as he says, the theater can't last much longer anyway. And in the meantime, it's a living. Yes, I think we give the theater another year or two, perhaps. Well, who do you suppose that is? No, thank you, Teddy. I'll go. Come in, Mr. Brophy.
Hello, Miss Brewster.
How are you, Mr. Klein?
Very well, Miss Brewster.
What news have you brought me?
Colonel, we have nothing to report.
Splendid! Thank you, gentlemen. At ease.
You know Dr. Harper.
Sure. Hello, Dr. Harper.
We've come for the toys for the Christmas fund.
Oh, yes.
Splendid work you men are doing, fixing up discarded toys to give your poor children a happier Christmas.
It gives us something to do when we have to sit around the station. You get tired playing cards, and then you start cleaning your gun, and the first thing you know, you've shot yourself in the foot.
Eddie, go upstairs and get that big box from your Aunt Martha's room. How is Mrs. Brophy today? Mrs. Brophy has been quite ill, Dr. Harper.
Pneumonia.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Charge!
Oh, she's better now, a little weak still.
I'm going to get you some beef broth to take to her.
Oh, don't bother, Miss Abby. You've done so much for her already.
We made it this morning. Sister Martha is taking some to poor Mr. Benitsky right now. I won't be a minute. Sit down and be comfortable, all of you.
She shouldn't go to all that trouble.
Listen, try to stop her or her sister from doing something nice, and for nothing. They don't even care how you vote.
When I received my call to Brooklyn and moved next door, my wife wasn't well. When she died, and for months before, well, if I knew what pure kindness and absolute generosity was, it's because I've known the Brewster sisters.
Colonel, you promised not to do that.
But I have to call a cabinet meeting to get a release of those supplies.
He used to do that in the middle of the night. The neighbors raised Cain with us. They're a little afraid of him anyway.
Oh, he's quite harmless.
Suppose he does think he's Teddy Roosevelt. There's a lot worse people he could think he was.
Damn shame. A nice family like this hatching a cuckoo.
Well, his father, the old girl's brother, was some sort of a genius, wasn't he? And their father, Teddy's grandfather, seems to me I've heard he was a little crazy too.
Yeah, he was crazy like a fox. He made $1 million.
Really? Here in Brooklyn?
Yeah, patent medicine. He was kind of a quack of some sort. Old Sergeant Edwards remembers him. He used the house here as a sort of clinic, tried him out on people.
Yeah, I hear he used to make mistakes occasionally, too.
The department never bothered him much because he was pretty useful on autopsies sometimes, especially poison cases.
Well, whatever he did, he left his daughters fixed for life. Thank God for that.
Not that they ever spend any of it on themselves.
Yes, well, I'm well acquainted with their charities.
You don't know a tenth of it. When I was with the Missing Persons Bureau, I was trying to trace an old man that we never did find. You know, there's a renting agency that's got this house down on its list for furnished rooms. They don't rent rooms. But you can bet that anyone who comes here looking for a room goes there with a good meal and probably a few dollars in their kick.
It's just a way of digging up people to do some good too.
Well, now, isn't this nice?
Good afternoon, Miss Brewster.
How do you do, Mr. Brophy, Dr. Harper, Mr. Klein?
How are you, Miss Brewster? We dropped in to get the Christmas toys.
Oh, yes. Teddy's Army and Navy. They wear out. They're all packed.
The colonel's upstairs after them. It seems the cabinet has to okay it.
Oh, yes, of course. Oh, I hope Mrs. Brophy's better.
She's doing fine, ma'am. Your sister's getting some soup for me to take to her.
Oh, yes, we made it this morning. I took some to a poor man who broke ever so many bones.
Back, Martha. How is Mr. Benitsky?
Well, dear, it's pretty serious, I'm afraid. The doctor was there. He's going to amputate in the morning.
Can we be present?
Oh, no. I asked him, but he says it's against the rules of the hospital.
You couldn't be of any service, and you must spare yourselves something.
Here's the broth, Mr. Brophy. Be sure it's good and hot.
Yes, ma'am.
This is fine. It'll make a lot of kids happy. That old Mallory boy's nuts about soldiers.
Yes, that's General Miles. I've retired him. What's this? The Oregon?
Teddy, dear, put it back.
But the Oregon goes to Australia.
Now, Teddy.
No, I've given my word to Fighting Bob Evans.
But Teddy...
What's the difference what kid gets it? Bobby Evans, Izzy Cohen? We'll run along, ma'am, and thank you very much.
Not at all. Goodbye.
I must be getting home.
Before you go, Dr. Harper.
Charge! Charge the blockhouse!
The blockhouse?
The stairs are always San Juan Hill.
Have you ever tried to persuade him that he wasn't Teddy Roosevelt?
Oh, no.
He's so happy being Teddy Roosevelt.
Once, a long time ago. Remember, Martha? We thought if he would be George Washington, it might be a change for him.
But he stayed under his bed for days and just wouldn't be anybody.
And we'd so much rather he'd be Mr. Roosevelt than nobody.
Well, if he's happy, and what's more important, you're happy, you'll see that the signs, these...
What are they?
Dr. Harper has made all arrangements for Teddy to go to Happydale Sanitarium after we pass on.
But why should Teddy sign any papers now?
Well, it's better to have it all settled. If the Lord should take you away suddenly, perhaps we couldn't persuade Teddy to, commit himself, and that would mean an unpleasant legal procedure. Mr. Witherspoon understands they're to be filed away until the time comes to use them.
Mr. Witherspoon? Who's he?
He's the superintendent of Happydale.
Dr. Harper has arranged for him to drop in tomorrow or the next day to meet Teddy.
I'd better be running along, or Elaine will be over here looking for me.
Give our love to Elaine. And Dr. Harper, please don't think sharply of Mortimer because he's a dramatic critic. Somebody has to do those things.
Did you just have tea? Isn't it rather late?
Yes, and dinner's going to be late too.
So, why?
Teddy, good news for you. You're going to Panama and dig another lock for the canal.
Delighted! That's bully! Just bully! I shall prepare at once for the journey. Charge!
Abby, while I was out?
Yes, dear. I just couldn't wait for you. I didn't know when you'd be back and Dr. Harper was coming.
But all by yourself?
Oh, I got along fine.
I'll run right downstairs and see.
Oh, no, there wasn't time and I was all alone.
Well?
Martha, just look in the window seat. Oh, it's Elaine. Come in, dear.
Good afternoon, Miss Abby. Good afternoon, Miss Martha. I thought Father was here.
He just this minute left. Didn't you meet him?
No, I took the shortcut through the cemetery. Mortimer hasn't come yet?
No, dear.
Oh? He asked me to meet him here. Do you mind if I wait?
Not at all.
Why don't you sit down, dear?
But we really must speak to Mortimer about doing this to you.
Doing what?
Well, he was brought up to know better. When a gentleman is taking a young lady out, he should call for her at her house.
Oh, well, there's something about calling for a girl at a parsonage that discourages any man who doesn't embroider.
He's done this too often. We're going to speak to him.
Oh, please don't. After young men whose idea of nightlife was to take me to prayer meeting, it's wonderful to go to the theater almost every night of my life.
It's comforting for us, too, because if Mortimer has to see some of those plays he has to see, well, at least he's sitting next to a minister's daughter.
My goodness, Elaine, what you must think of us, not having tea cleared away by this time.
Now, don't bother with anything in the kitchen until Mortimer comes, and then I'll help you. Mortimer should be here any minute now.
Yes. Father must have been surprised not to find me at home. I'd better run over and say goodnight to him.
Oh, it's a shame you missed him, dear.
If Mortimer comes, you tell him I'll be right back. Hello, Mort.
Hello, Elaine. Hello, Aunt Martha.
Abby, Mortimer's here.
Were you going somewhere?
I was just going over to tell Father not to wait up for me.
I didn't know that was still being done, even in Brooklyn.
Hello, Mortimer.
Hello, Aunt Abby.
How are you, dear?
All right, and you look well. You haven't changed much since yesterday.
Oh, goodness, it was yesterday, wasn't it? We're seeing a great deal of you lately. Well, come, sit down, sit down.
Abby, haven't we something to do in the kitchen?
Huh?
You know, the tea things.
Oh, yes, the tea things. Well, you two just make yourselves at home. Just
Make yourselves at home.
Well, can't you take a hint?
No, that was pretty obvious. A lack of inventiveness, I should say.
Yes, that's exactly what you'd say.
Where do you want to go for dinner?
I don't care. I'm not very hungry.
Well, I just had breakfast. Suppose we wait until after the show.
But that'll make it pretty late, won't it?
Not with the little stinker we're seeing tonight. From what I've heard about it, we'll be at Blake's by 10 o'clock.
You ought to be fair to these plays.
Are these plays fair to me?
I've never seen you walk out on a musical.
That musical isn't opening tonight.
No?
Darling, you'll have to learn the rules. With a musical, there are always 4 changes of title and 3 postponements. They liked it in New Haven, but it needs a lot of work.
Oh, I was hoping it was a musical.
You have such a light mind.
No, not a bit. Musicals somehow have a humanizing effect on you. After a serious play, we'd join the proletariat in the subway and I listen to a lecture on the drama. After a musical, you bring me home in a taxi and you make a few passes.
Now, wait a minute, darling. That's a very inaccurate piece of reporting.
Oh, well, I will admit that after the Behrman play, you told me I had authentic beauty. And that's a hell of a thing to say to a girl. It wasn't until after our first musical you told me I had nice legs. And I have too.
For a minister's daughter, you know a lot about life. Where'd you learn it?
In the choir loft.
I'll explain that to you sometime, darling. The close connection between eroticism and religion.
Religion never gets as high as the choir loft. Which reminds me, I'd better tell Father please not to wait up for me tonight.
I've never been able to rationalize it.
What?
My falling in love with a girl who lives in Brooklyn.
Falling in love? You're not stooping to the articulate, are you?
The only way I can regain my self-respect is to keep you in New York.
Did you say keep?
No, I've come to the conclusion that you're holding out for the legalities.
I can afford to be a good girl for quite a few years yet.
And I can't wait that long. Where could we be married in a hurry? Say tonight.
I'm afraid Father will insist on officiating.
Oh, God, I'll bet your father could make even the marriage service sound pedestrian.
Are you by any chance writing a review of it?
Forgive me, darling. It's an occupational disease. I may give that play tonight a good notice.
Now, darling, don't pretend you love me that much.
Ah, be sure to tell your father not to wait up tonight.
I think tonight I'd better tell him to wait up.
I'll telephone Winchell to publish the bans.
Nevertheless.
All right, everything formal and legal, but not later than next month.
Darling, I'll talk it over with Father and set the date.
No, we'll have to see what's in rehearsal. There'll be a lot of other first nights in October.
Hello, Mortimer.
How are you, Mr. President?
Bully, thank you. Just bully. What news have you brought me?
Just this, Mr. President. The country is squarely behind you.
Yes, I know. Isn't it wonderful? Well, goodbye. Goodbye.
Where are you off to, Teddy?
Panama.
Panama's the cellar. He digs locks for the canal down there.
You're so sweet with him, and he's very fond of you.
Well, Teddy was always my favorite brother.
Favorite? Were there more of you?
There's another brother, Jonathan.
I never heard of him. Your aunts never mention him.
No, we don't like to talk about Jonathan. He left Brooklyn very early, by request. Jonathan was the kind of boy who liked to cut worms in two with his teeth.
What became of him?
I don't know. He wanted to become a surgeon like grandfather, but he wouldn't go to medical school first, and his practice got him into trouble.
Aren't you two going to be late for the theater?
We're skipping dinner. We won't have to start for half an hour.
Well, then I'll leave you two alone together again.
Oh, don't bother, darling. I'm going to run over to speak to Father. Before I go out with you, he likes to pray over me a little. I'll be right back. I'll cut through the cemetery.
If the prayer isn't too long, I'd have time to lead you beside distilled waters.
Mortimer, that's the first time I've ever heard you quote the Bible. We knew Elaine would be a good influence for you.
By the way, I'm going to marry her.
What? Oh, darling. Martha, come right in here. I've got the most wonderful news for you. Mortimer and Elaine are going to be married.
Married? Oh, Mortimer? Oh, we hoped it would happen. Oh, that's you. Sorry.
We hoped it would happen just like this.
Well, Elaine must be the happiest girl in the world.
Happy? Just look at her leaping over those gravestones. Say, what's that?
Oh, what's what, dear?
See that statue there? That's Horrendinidia Carnina.
Oh, no, dear. That's Emma B. Stout ascending to heaven.
No. Standing on Mrs. Stout's left ear. That bird. That's a red-crested swallow. I've only seen one of those before in my life.
I don't know how you can be thinking about a bird now, what with Elaine and the engagement and everything.
It's a vanishing species. By the way, I left a large envelope around here last week. It was one of the chapters of my book on Thoreau. Have you seen it?
Well, if you left it here, it must be here somewhere.
When are you going to be married? What are your plans? There must be something more you can tell us about Elaine.
Elaine? Oh, yes, Elaine thought it was brilliant.
What was, dear?
My chapter on Thoreau.
Well, when Elaine comes back, I think we ought to have a little celebration. We must drink to your happiness. Martha, isn't some of that Lady Baltimore cake left?
Oh, yes.
And I'll open a bottle of wine.
Oh, and to think it happened in this room.
Now, where could I have put that?
Well, with your fiancé sitting beside you tonight, I do hope the play will be something you can enjoy for once. It may be something romantic. What's the name of it?
Murder Will Out.
Oh, dear.
When the curtain goes up, the first thing you'll see will be a dead body. Aunt Abby!
Yes, dear.
You were going to make plans for Teddy to go to that sanitarium, Happydale?
Yes, dear, it's all arranged. Dr. Harper was here today and brought the papers for Teddy to sign. Here they are.
He's got to sign them right away.
That's what Dr. Harper thinks. Then there won't be any legal difficulties after we pass on.
He's got to sign them this minute. He's down in the cellar. Get him up here right away.
There's no such hurry as that.
No, when Teddy starts working on the canal, you can't get his mind on anything else.
Teddy's got to go to Happydale now, tonight.
Oh, no, dear. That's not until after we're gone.
Right away, I tell you, right away.
Why, Mortimer, how can you say such a thing? Why, as long as we live, we'll never be separated from Teddy.
Listen, darlings, I'm frightfully sorry, but I've got some shocking news for you. Now we've all got to try and keep our heads. You know, we've sort of humored Teddy because we thought he was harmless.
Why, he is harmless.
He was harmless. That's why he has to go to Happydale, why he has to be confined.
Mortimer, why have you suddenly turned against Teddy, your own brother?
You've got to know sometime it might as well be now. Teddy's killed a man.
Oh, nonsense, dear.
There's a body in the window seat.
Yes, dear, we know.
You know.
Of course, dear, but it has nothing to do with Teddy.
Now, Mortimer, just forget about it. Forget you ever saw the gentleman.
Forget?
We never dreamed you'd peek.
But who is he?
His name's Hoskins, Adam Hoskins. That's really all I know about him, except that he's a Methodist.
That's all you know about him? Well, what's he doing here? What happened to him?
He died.
Martha, men don't just get into window seats and die.
No, he died first.
How?
Oh, Mortimer, don't be so inquisitive. The gentleman died because he drank some wine with poison in it.
How did the poison get in the wine?
Well, we put it in wine because it's less noticeable. When it's in tea, it has a distinct odor.
You put it in the wine?
Yes, and I put Mr. Hoskins in the window seat because Dr. Harper was coming.
So you knew what you'd done? You didn't want Dr. Harper to see the body?
Well, not at tea. That wouldn't have been very nice. Now, Mortimer, you know the whole thing. Just forget about it. I do think Martha and I have the right to our own little secrets.
And don't you tell Elaine. Oh, Abby, while I was out, I dropped in on Mrs. Schultz. She's much better, but she would like us to take Junior to the movies again.
Well, we must do that tomorrow or the next day.
Yes, but this time we'll go where we want to go. Junior's not going to drag me into another one of those scary pictures.
City desk. Hello, Al. Do you know who this is? That's right. Say, Al, when I left the office, I told you where I was going, remember? Where did I say? Well, it would take me about half an hour to get to Brooklyn. What time have you got? That's right. I must be here. And Abby and Martha, come in here. What are we going to do? What are we going to do?
What are we going to do about what, dear?
There's a body in there.
Yes, Mr. Hoskins.
Oh, good heavens, I can't turn you over to the police, but what am I going to do?
Well, for one thing, dear, stop being so excited.
And for pity's sake, stop worrying. We told you to forget the whole thing.
Forget? My dear Aunt Abby, can I make you realize that something has to be done?
Now, Mortimer, you behave yourself. You're a little too old to be flying off the handle like this.
But Mr. Hotchkiss!
Hopkins, dear.
But whatever his name is, you can't leave him there.
Oh, we don't intend to, dear.
No, Teddy's down in the cellar now digging the lock.
You mean you're going to bury Mr. Hotchkiss in the cellar?
Oh, yes, dear. That's what we did with the others.
No, you can't bury Mr. Others.
The other gentleman.
When you say others, do you mean others? More than one others?
Oh, yes, dear. Let me see. This is 11. Isn't it, Abby?
No, dear, this makes 12.
I think you're wrong, Abby. This is only 11.
No, dear, because I remember when Mr. Hoskins first came in, it occurred to me that he would make just an even dozen.
Well, you really shouldn't count the first one.
Oh, I was counting the first one, so that makes it 12.
Hello? Hello, Al. Hi, it's good to hear your voice.
Well, anyway, they're all down in the cellar.
No, Al, I'm sober as lark. I just called you because I was feeling a little pirandello. You wouldn't know, Al. Look, I'm glad you called. Get hold of George right away. He's got to review the play tonight. I can't make it. No, Al, you're wrong. I'll tell you all about it tomorrow. Well, George has got to cover the play tonight. This is my department and I'm running it. You get a hold of George. Now, let's see. Where were we? 12!
Yes, Abby thinks we ought to count the first one, and that makes 12.
All right. Now, who is the first one?
Mr. Midgley. He was a Baptist.
Of course, I still think we can't claim full credit for him because he just died.
Martha means without any help from us. You see, Mr. Midgley came here looking for a room.
It was right after you moved to New York.
And it didn't seem right for that lovely room to be going to waste when there were so many people who needed it.
Oh, he was such a lonely old man.
All his kith and kin were dead, and it left him so forlorn and unhappy.
We felt sorry for him.
And then when his heart attack came, and he sat dead in that chair, looking so peaceful. Remember, Martha, we made up our minds then and there that if we could help other lonely old men to that same peace, we would.
He dropped dead right in that chair. How awful for you.
Oh, no, dear. Why, it was rather like old times. Your grandfather always used to have a cadaver or two around the house. You see, Teddy had been digging in Panama, and he thought Mr. Midgley was a yellow fever victim.
That meant he had to be buried immediately.
So we all took him down to Panama and put him in a lock. Now, that's why we told you not to worry about it, because we know exactly what's to be done.
And that's how all this started, that man walking in here and dropping dead.
Of course, we realized we couldn't depend on that happening again. So...
You remember those jars of poison that have been on the shelves in Grandfather's laboratory for all those years?
You know your Aunt Martha's knack for mixing things. You've eaten enough of her piccalilli.
Well, dear, for a gallon of elderberry wine, I take 1 teaspoonful of arsenic and then add a teaspoonful of strychnine and then just a pinch of cyanide.
Should have quite a kick.
Yes. As a matter of fact, one of our gentlemen found time to say, "How delicious."
Well, I'll have to get things started in the kitchen.
I wish you could stay for dinner.
I'm trying out a new recipe.
I couldn't eat a thing.
I'll come and help you, dear. Well, I feel so much better now. Oh, you have to wait for Elaine, don't you? How happy you must be. Well, dear, I'll leave you alone with your thoughts.
Oh, it's you.
But don't be cross, darling. Father could see that I was excited, so I told him about us, and that made it hard for me to get away. But listen, darling, he's not going to wait up for me tonight.
You run along home, Elaine, and I'll call you up tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
You know, I always call you up every day or two.
But we're going to the theater tonight.
No, we're not.
Well, why not?
Elaine, something's come up.
What, darling? Mortimer, you've lost your job?
No, I haven't lost my job. I'm just not covering that play tonight. Now you run along home, Elaine.
But I've got to know what's happened. Certainly you can tell me.
No, dear, I can't.
But if we're going to be married...
Married?
Have you forgotten that not 15 minutes ago you proposed to me?
I did. Yes. Well, as far as I know, that's still on. Now you run along home, Elaine. I've got to do something.
Listen, you can't propose to me 1 minute and throw me out of the house the next.
I'm not throwing you out of the house, darling. Will you get out of here?
No, I won't get out of here. Not until I've had some kind of explanation.
Elaine. Hello. Oh, hello, Al. Hold on a minute, will you? All right, it's important, but it can wait a minute, can it? Hold on. Look, Elaine, you're a sweet girl, and I love you, but I have something on my mind now, and I want you to go home and wait until I call you.
Don't try to be masterful.
When we're married and I have problems to face, I hope you're less tedious and uninspired.
Well, when we're married, if we're married, I hope I find you adequate.
Elaine! Ugh. Hello, Al! Hello, Al!
That's the doorbell, dear, not the telephone. How do you do? Come in.
Yes, I understand you have a room for rent.
Yes, won't you step in?
Are you the lady of the house?
Yes, I'm Miss Brewster, and this is my sister, another Miss Brewster.
My name is Gibbs.
Oh, won't you sit down? I'm sorry, we were just setting the table for dinner.
Hello, let me talk to Al again. City desk. Al! City desk! What? I'm sorry, wrong number.
May I see the room?
Why don't you sit down a minute and let's get acquainted?
That won't be good if I don't like the room.
Is Brooklyn your home?
I haven't got a home. Live in a hotel. Don't like it.
Hello, city desk.
Are your family Brooklyn people?
Haven't got any family.
All alone in the world?
Yep.
Well, Martha.
Hello, Al. Mort, we got cut off. Al, I can't cover the play tonight. That's all there is to it. I can't.
What church do you go to? There's an Episcopal church practically next door.
Well, I'm Presbyterian, or at least used to be.
What's George doing in Bermuda? Certainly I told him he could go to Bermuda. It's my department, isn't it? Well, you've got to get somebody. Who else is there around the office?
Is there always this much noise?
Oh, no, he doesn't live with us.
There must be somebody around the place. Look, Al, how about that office boy? You know, the bright one, the one we don't like? Well, you look around the office. I'll hold on.
I'd really like to see the room.
It's upstairs. Won't you try a glass of our wine before we start up?
Never touch it.
We make this ourselves. It's elderberry wine.
Elderberry wine? Well, I haven't tasted elderberry wine since I was a boy. Thank you.
Well, there must be some printers around. Look, Al, the fellow who sets my copy, he don't know about what I'd write. His name is Joe. He's the third machine from the left, but Al, he might turn out to be another Burns Mantle.
Do you have your own elderberry bushes?
No, but the cemetery is full of them.
No, I'm not drinking, but I'm going to start now.
Do you serve meals?
We might, but first just see whether you like our wine.
Mortimer!
Mortimer, not that.
Oh! Oh! Get out! Go! Shoot! Scram! Go! Run for your life! Now! Go!
Now you've spoiled everything.
You can't do things like that! I don't know how to explain this to you, but it's not only against the law, it's wrong! It's not a nice thing to do! People wouldn't understand. He wouldn't understand!
Abby, we shouldn't have told Mortimer.
What I mean is, well, this has developed into a very bad habit.
Mortimer, we don't try to stop you from doing things you like to do. I don't know why you should interfere with us.
Hello? All right, I will see the first act and I'll pan the hell out of it. But look, Al, you've got to do something for me. Get hold of O'Brien, our lawyer, the head of our legal department. Have him meet me at the theater. Now, don't let me down. Okay, I'm starting now. Look, I've got to go to the theater. I can't get out of it. But before I go, will you promise me something?
We'd have to know what it was first.
I love you very much, and I know you love me. You know I'd do anything in the world for you, and I want you to just do this little thing for me.
What do you want us to do?
Don't do anything. I mean, don't do anything. Don't let anyone in this house, and leave Mr. Hoskins right where he is.
Why?
I want time to think, and I've got quite a little to think about. You know, I wouldn't want anything to happen to you.
Well, what on earth could happen to us?
Anyway, you'll do this for me, won't you?
Well, we were planning on holding services before dinner.
Services!
Certainly. You don't think we'd bury Mr. Hoskins without a full Methodist service, do you? Why, he was a Methodist.
But can't that wait until I get back?
Oh, then you could join us.
Yes, yes!
Hmm.
Oh, Mortimer, you'll enjoy the services, especially the hymns. Remember how beautifully Mortimer used to sing in the choir before his voice changed?
And remember, you are not going to let anyone in this house while I'm gone. It's a promise.
Well,
Oh, Martha, we can do that now that Mortimer's cooperating with us. Well, all right, Mortimer.
Have you got some paper? I'll get back just as soon as I can. There's a man I've got to see.
Here's some stationery. Will this do?
That'll be fine. I can save time if I write my review on the way to the theater.
Hmm.
Mortimer didn't seem quite himself today.
Well, that's only natural. I think I know why.
Why?
Well, he'd just become engaged to be married. I suppose that always makes a man nervous.
Well, I'm so happy for Elaine and their honeymoon ought to give Mortimer a real vacation. I don't think he got much rest this summer.
Well, at least he didn't go kiting off to China or Spain.
I could never understand why he wanted to go to those places.
Well, I think to Mortimer, the theater has always seemed pretty small potatoes. He needs something big to criticize, something like the human race.
Oh, Abby, if Mortimer's coming back for the services for Mr. Hoskins, we'll need another hymnal. There's one in my room.
You know, dear, it's really my turn to read the services. But since you weren't here when Mr. Hoskins came, I want you to do it.
That's very nice of you, dear. But are you sure you want me to?
It's only fair.
Well, I think I'll wear my black bombazine and Mother's old brooch.
I'll go, dear.
We promised Mortimer we wouldn't let anyone in.
Who do you suppose it is?
Wait a minute, I'll look. It's two men, and I've never seen them before.
Are you sure?
There's a car at the curb. They must have come in that.
Let me look.
Do you recognize them?
They're strangers to me.
We'll just have to pretend that we're not at home.
Come in, Doctor. This is the home of my youth. As a boy, I couldn't wait to escape from this place. Now I'm glad to escape back into it.
Ah, Johnny, it's a fine hideout.
Family must still live here. There's something so unmistakably Brewster about the Brewsters. I hope there's a fatted calf awaiting the return of the prodigal.
Yeah, I'm hungry. Look, Johnny drinks.
As though we were expected. A good omen.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
Why, Aunt Abby, Aunt Martha, it's Jonathan.
You get out of here.
I'm Jonathan. Your nephew, Jonathan?
Oh, no, you're not. You're nothing like Jonathan, so don't pretend you are. You just get out of here.
But I am Jonathan, and this is Dr. Einstein.
And he's not Dr. Einstein either.
Not Dr. Albert Einstein, Dr. Herman Einstein.
Who are you? You're not our nephew, Jonathan.
I see you're still wearing the lovely garnet ring that Grandma Brewster brought you in England. And you, Aunt Martha, still the high collar, to hide the scar where grandfather's acid burned you.
His voice is like Jonathan's.
Have you been in an accident?
No. My face. Dr. Einstein is responsible for that. He's a plastic surgeon. He changes people's faces.
But I've seen that face before. Abby, remember when we took that little Schultz boy to the movies and I was so frightened? It was that face.
Easy, Johnny, easy. Don't worry, ladies. The last 5 years, I give Johnny 3 new faces. I give him another one right away. This last face, well, I saw that picture too, just before I operate, and I was intoxicated.
You see, Doctor? You see what you've done to me? Even my own family.
Johnny, your home in this lovely house. How often he tells me about Brooklyn, about this house, about his aunts that he loves so much. They know you, Johnny. You know it's Jonathan. Tell him, speak to him, tell him so.
Well, Jonathan, it's been a long time. What have you been doing all these years?
Yes, Jonathan. Where have you been?
England, South Africa, Australia, the last 5 years, Chicago. Dr. Einstein and I were in business there together.
Oh, we were in Chicago for the World's Fair.
Yes, we found Chicago awfully warm.
Yeah, it got hot for us too.
Ba-dum-bum.
Well, it's wonderful to be in Brooklyn again. And you, Abby, Martha, you don't look a day older. Just as I remembered you. Sweet, charming, hospitable. And dear Teddy, did he get into politics? My little brother, Doctor, was determined to become president.
Oh, Teddy's fine. And Mortimer's well, too.
I know about Mortimer. I've seen his picture at the head of his column. He evidently fulfilled all the promises of his early nasty nature.
We're very fond of Mortimer.
Well, Jonathan, it's very nice to have seen you again.
Bless you, Aunt Martha. It's good to be home again.
Well, Martha, we mustn't let what's on the stove boil over.
Oh, yes. If you'll excuse us for a minute, Jonathan, unless you're in a hurry to go somewhere.
So, Johnny, where do we go from here? We got to think fast. The police have got pictures of that face. I got to operate on you right away. We got to find some place for that, and we got to find a place for Mr. Spinalzo, too.
Don't waste any worry on that rat.
But, Johnny, we got a hot stiff on our hands.
Forget Mr. Spinalzo.
But you can't leave a dead body in the rumble seat. You shouldn't have killed him, Johnny. He's a nice fellow. He gives us a lift, and what happens?
He said I looked like Boris Karloff. That's your work, Doctor. You did that to me.
And now, Johnny, if we find a place somewhere, I fix you up quick.
Tonight.
Johnny, I got to eat first. I'm hungry. I'm weak.
Jonathan, we're glad that you remembered us and took the trouble to come and say hello. But you were never happy in this house, and we were never happy while you were in it. So we've just come in to say goodbye.
Aunt Abby, I can't say that your feelings toward me come as a surprise. I've spent a great many hours regretting the many heartaches I must have given you as a boy.
You were quite a trial to us, Jonathan.
But my great disappointment is for Dr. Einstein. I promised him that no matter how rushed we were in passing through Brooklyn, I'd take the time to bring him here for one of Aunt Martha's home-cooked dinners.
Oh!
I'm sorry. I'm afraid there wouldn't be enough.
Abby, it's a pretty good-sized pot roast.
Pot roast!
I think it's the least we can do.
Oh, thank you, Aunt Martha. We'll stay to dinner.
Well, we'll hurry it along.
Yes.
Oh, Jonathan, if you want to freshen up, why don't you use the washroom in Grandfather's old laboratory?
Is that still there?
Oh, yes, just as he left it. Well, I'll help Martha get things started since we're all in a hurry.
Well, we get a meal anyway.
Grandfather's laboratory. And just as it was, Doctor, a perfect operating room.
Too bad we can't use it.
After you're finished with me, why, we could make a fortune here. The laboratory, the large ward in the attic, 10 beds, Doctor, and Brooklyn is crying for your talents.
Why work yourself up, Johnny? Anyway, for Brooklyn, I think we're a year too late.
You don't know this town, Doctor. Practically every body in Brooklyn needs a new face.
But so many of the old faces are locked up.
A very small percentage, and the boys in Brooklyn are famous for paying generously to stay out of jail.
They take it easy, Johnny. Your aunts, they don't want us here.
We're here for dinner, aren't we?
Yeah, but after dinner?
Leave it to me, Doctor. I'll handle it. Why, this house will be our headquarters for years.
Oh, that would be beautiful. Johnny, this nice, quiet house, those aunts of yours, what sweet ladies. I love them already. I get the bags, yeah?
Doctor! We must wait until we're invited.
But you just said that's...
We'll be invited.
And if they say no?
Doctor. Two helpless old women.
It's like comes true, a beautiful dream. Only I hope you're not dreaming. It's so peaceful.
That's what makes this house so perfect for us. It's so peaceful.
Charge!
Jonathan watches him from the foot of stairs. Einstein, sitting on window seat, takes a hasty swig from his flask as the curtain comes down on the word charge. Act 2. Scene the same. Later that night. Jonathan, with an after-dinner cigar, is occupying an armchair left of table, completely at his ease. Abby and Martha, seated on window seat, are giving him a nervous attention in the attitude of people who wish their guests would go home. Einstein is relaxed and happy in chair right of table. Dinner dishes have been cleared. There is a red cloth on table with a saucer to serve as ashtray for Jonathan. The room is in order. All doors are closed, as are drapes over windows.
Yes, aunties. Those 5 years in Chicago were amongst the busiest and happiest of my life.
And from Chicago, we go to South Bend, Indiana.
They wouldn't be interested in our experience in Indiana.
Well, Jonathan, you've led a very interesting life, I'm sure, but we really shouldn't have allowed you to talk so late.
My meeting Dr. Einstein in London, I must say, changed the whole course of my life. You remember I had been in South Africa in the diamond business, then Amsterdam, the diamond market. I wanted to go back to South Africa, and Dr. Einstein made it possible for me.
A good job, Johnny. And then we take off for the bandages. His face looked so different. The nurse had to introduce me.
I loved that face. I still carry the picture with me.
This looks more the way you used to look, but I still wouldn't know you.
I think we'll go back to that face, Doctor.
Yeah, it's safe now.
Well, I know you both want to get to where you're going.
My dear aunts, I'm so full of that delicious dinner, I'm unable to move a muscle.
Yeah, it's nice here.
After all, it's very late and...
I found it! I found it!
Now, what did you find, Teddy?
The story of my life. My biography. Here's the picture I was telling you about, General. Yeah, here we are, both of us. President Roosevelt and General Goethals at Holbrook Cut. That's me, General, and that's you.
My, how I've changed.
Well, you see, that picture hasn't been taken yet. We haven't even started work on Holbrook Cut. We're still digging locks, and now, General, we will both go to Panama and inspect the new lock.
No, Teddy, not to Panama.
We go some other time. Panama's a long way off.
Nonsense, it's just down in the cellar.
The cellar?
We let him dig the Panama Canal in the cellar.
General Goethals, as President of the United States, Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy, and the man who gave you this job, I demand that you accompany me on the inspection of the new lock.
Teddy, I think it's time you went to bed.
I beg your pardon. Who are you?
I'm Woodrow Wilson. Go to bed.
No, you're not Wilson, but your face is familiar. Let me see. You're not anyone I know now, but perhaps later. On my hunting trip to Africa, yes, you look like someone I might meet in the jungle.
It's your brother, Jonathan, dear.
He's had his face changed.
So that's it. A nature faker.
And perhaps you had better go to bed, Teddy. Jonathan and his friend have got to go back to their hotel.
General Gothers, inspect the canal.
All right, Mr. President, we go to Panama.
Bully! Bully! Follow me, General. It's down south, you know.
Well, bon voyage.
Aunt Abby, I must correct your misapprehension. You spoke of our hotel. We have no hotel. We came directly here.
Well, there's a very nice little hotel just 3 blocks down the...
Aunt Martha, this is my home.
But Jonathan, you can't stay here. We need our rooms.
You need them.
Yes, for our lodgers.
And there are lodgers in this house?
Well, not just now, but we plan to have some.
Then my old room is still free.
But Jonathan, there's no place for Dr. Einstein.
You'll share the room with me.
No, Jonathan, I'm afraid you can't stay here.
Dr. Einstein and I need a place to sleep. You remembered this afternoon that as a boy I could be disagreeable? It wouldn't be very pleasant for any of us if I were to...
Perhaps we better let him stay here tonight.
Well, just overnight, Jonathan.
That's settled. Now, if you'll get my room ready...
It only needs airing out.
We keep it ready to show our lodgers. I think you and Dr. Einstein will find it comfortable.
You have a most distinguished guest in Dr. Einstein. I'm afraid you don't appreciate his skill, but you will. In a few weeks, you'll see me looking like a very different Jonathan.
He can't operate on you here.
When Dr. Einstein and I get organized, when we resume practice... Oh, I forgot to tell you. We're turning Grandfather's laboratory into an operating room. We expect to be quite busy.
Jonathan, we will not let you turn this house into a hospital.
Hospital? Oh, heavens, no. It will be a beauty parlor.
Hey, Johnny, down in the cellar.
Dr. Einstein, my dear aunts have invited us to live with them.
Oh, you fixed it.
Oh, you're sleeping here tonight.
Please, get our rooms ready immediately.
Well,
for tonight.
Johnny, when I go down into the cellar, what do you think I find?
What?
The Panama Canal.
The Panama Canal.
It just fits Mr. Spinalzo. It's a hole Teddy dug, 6 feet long and 4 feet wide.
Down there.
You think they knew we were bringing Mr. Spinalzo along? That's hospitality.
Rather a good joke on my aunts. They're living in a house with a body buried in the cellar.
How do we get him in?
We can't just walk him through the door. We'll drive the car up between the house and the cemetery. Then when they go to bed, we'll bring Mr. Spinalzo in through the window.
Bed? Just think, we've got a bed tonight.
Easy, doctor. Remember, you're operating tomorrow. And this time, you better be sober.
I fix you up beautiful.
And if you don't?
Your room is ready, Jonathan.
Then you can go to bed. We're moving the car up behind the house.
Oh, it's all right where it is until morning.
I don't want to leave it in the street. That might be against the law.
Abby, what are we going to do?
Well, we're not going to let them stay more than one night in this house, for one thing. What would the neighbors think? People coming in here with one face and going out with another.
What are we going to do about Mr. Hoskins?
Oh, Mr. Hoskins, it can't be very comfortable for him in there. And he's been so patient, the poor dear. Well, I think Teddy had better get Mr. Hoskins downstairs right away.
Abby, I will not invite Jonathan to the funeral services.
Oh, no. We'll wait until they've gone to bed and then come down and hold the services.
General Goethals was very pleased. He says the canal is just the right size.
Teddy, there's been another yellow fever victim.
Dear me. This will be a shock to the general.
Then we mustn't tell him about it.
But it's his department.
No, we mustn't tell him, Teddy. It would just spoil his visit.
I'm sorry, Aunt Abby. It's out of my hands. He'll have to be told. Army regulations, you know.
No, Teddy, we must keep it a secret.
Yes.
A state secret?
Yes, a state secret.
Promise?
You have the word of the President of the United States. Cross my heart and hope to die. Now, let's see. How are we going to keep it a secret?
Well, Teddy, you go back down in the cellar, and when I turn out the lights, when it's all dark, you come up and take the poor man down to the canal. Now go along, Teddy.
And we'll come down later and hold services.
You may announce the President will say a few words. Where is the poor devil?
He's in the window seat.
It seems to be spreading. We've never had yellow fever there before.
Martha, when Jonathan and Dr. Einstein come back, let's see if we can get them to go to bed right away.
Yes. Then by the time they're asleep, we'll be dressed for the funeral. Abby, I've never even seen Mr. Hoskins.
Oh my goodness, that's right. You were out. Well, you just come right over and see him now. He's really very nice looking, considering he's a Methodist.
No!
We're bringing the luggage through here.
Jonathan, your room's waiting for you. You can go right up.
I'm afraid we don't keep Brooklyn hours, but you two run along to bed.
Now, you must be very tired, both of you. We don't go to bed this early.
Well, you should. It's time. I came home to take care of you.
We weren't planning to go until...
And Martha, did you hear me say go to bed? The instruments can go into the laboratory in the morning.
I'll wait till you're up, then turn out the lights.
All right. Another flight, Doctor. Run along on Martha. All right, Aunt Abby. Now, Aunt Abby, turn out the lights. Whole bunch of stuff.
All right, Johnny.
Right. I'll get the window open. You go around and hand him through.
No, he's too heavy for me. You go outside and push. I stay here and pull. Then together we get him down to Panama.
All right. I'll take a look around outside the house. When I tap on the glass, you open the window.
All right. Who left this open? Dummkopf. Johnny? Okay, alley-oop. Wait a minute. You lost a leg somewhere. Now I got him. Come on. Oh, that was me, Johnny. I slipped.
Be more careful.
Well, his shoe came off. All right, Johnny. I got him. Johnny, somebody at the door. Go quick. No, I managed here. Go quick.
Miss Abby? Miss Martha? Miss Abby? Miss Martha? Who is it? Is that you, Teddy? Who are you?
Who are you?
I'm Elaine Harper. I live next door.
Then what are you doing here?
I came over to see Miss Abby and Miss Martha.
Turn on the lights, Doctor. You chose rather an untimely moment for a social call.
I think you'd better explain what you're doing here.
We happen to live here.
You don't live here. I'm in this house every day, and I've never seen you before. Where is Miss Abby and Miss Martha? What have you done to them?
Perhaps we'd better introduce ourselves. This is Dr. Einstein.
Dr. Einstein?
A surgeon of great distinction. And something of a magician.
And I suppose you're going to tell me you're Boris.
I'm Jonathan Brewster.
Oh. You're Jonathan?
I see you've heard of me.
Yes, just this afternoon for the first time.
And what did they say about me?
Only that there was another brother named Jonathan. That's all that was said. Well, that explains everything. Now that I know who you are, I'll be running back along home now. If you'd kindly unlock the door.
That explains everything. Just what did you mean by that? Why did you come here at this time of night?
I thought I saw someone prowling around the house. I suppose it was you.
You thought you saw someone prowling around the house?
Yes. Weren't you outside? Isn't that your car?
You saw someone at the car?
Yes.
What else did you see?
Just someone walking around the house to the car.
What else did you see?
Well, just that. That's all. I mean, that's why I came over here. I wanted to tell Miss Abby to call the police. But if it was you, that's your car, I don't need to bother Miss Abby. I'll be running along.
What was the man doing at the car?
I don't know. You see, I was on my way over here.
I think you're lying.
I think she tells the truth, Johnny. Let's let her go now, huh?
I think she's lying, breaking into a house this time of night. I think she's dangerous. She shouldn't be allowed around loose.
Oh, take your hands off me!
Doctor?
It's going to be a private funeral.
Teddy! Teddy! Tell these men who I am!
That's my daughter, Alice. Charged!
No, no, Teddy!
Doctor, your handkerchief. The cellar.
What's the matter?
What's happening down there?
What's the matter? What are you doing?
We caught a burglar, a sneak thief. Go back to your room.
We'll call the police.
We've called the police. We'll handle this. Go back to your room. Do you hear me?
Mortimer! Where have you been?
The Nora Bay's Theater, and I should have known better. My God, I'm still there.
This is your brother Jonathan, and this is Dr. Einstein.
I know this isn't a nightmare, but what is it?
I've come back home, Mortimer.
Who did you say this was?
It's your brother Jonathan. He's had his face changed. Dr. Einstein performed the operation.
Jonathan. Jonathan, you always were a horror, but you have to look like one?
Easy, Johnny, easy.
Mortimer, have you forgotten the things I used to do to you when we were boys? Remember the time you were tied to the bedpost, the needles under your fingernails?
My God, it is Jonathan. Yes, I remember. I remember you as the most detestable, vicious, venomous form of animal life I ever knew.
Now, don't you two boys start quarreling again the minute you've seen each other.
There won't be any fight, Aunt Abby. Jonathan, you're not wanted here. Get out.
Dr. Einstein and I have been invited to stay.
Not in this house.
Just for tonight.
I don't want him anywhere near me.
But we did invite them for tonight, and it wouldn't be very nice to go back on our word.
All right, tonight, but the first thing in the morning, out! Where are they sleeping?
We put them in Jonathan's old room.
That's my old room. I'm sleeping in that room. I'm here to stay.
Oh, Mortimer, I'm so glad.
Johnny, we sleep down here.
Bet your life you sleep down here.
You sleep on the sofa and I sleep on the window seat.
The window seat? Well, let's not argue about it. The window seat's good enough for me for tonight. I'll sleep on the window seat.
You know, Johnny, all this argument, it makes me think of Mr. Spinozzo.
Spinozzo? Well, now, Mortimer, it really isn't necessary to inconvenience you like this. We'll sleep down here.
Jonathan, your son consideration for me is very unconvincing.
Come along, Johnny. We get our things out of the room, eh?
Don't bother, Doctor.
By the way, Doctor, I've completely lost track of Mr. Spinalzo.
Who's this Mr. Spinalzo?
Just a friend of ours. Johnny's been looking for.
Well, don't bring anyone else in here.
It's all right, Johnny. If the pack, I tell you all about it.
Mortimer, you don't have to sleep down here. I can go in with Martha and you can take my room.
No trouble at all. Aunt Abby, we'll be packed in a few minutes, and then you can have the room, Mortimer.
You're just wasting your time. I told you I'm sleeping down here.
Mortimer?
What's the matter with you, dear?
I've almost been killed.
You've almost been... Abby! Martha!
No, it was Jonathan.
He mistook her for a sneak thief.
No, it was more than that. He's some kind of maniac. Mortimer, I'm afraid of him.
My darling, you're trembling. Have you got any smelling salts?
No, but do you think some hot tea or coffee?
Coffee. Make some for me too, and some sandwiches. I haven't had any dinner.
We'll make something for both of you.
Martha, we can leave our hats downstairs here now.
You weren't going out somewhere, were you? Do you know what time it is? It's after 12. 12! Elaine, you've got to go home.
What?
What, you wanted some sandwiches for you both. It won't take a minute.
Why don't you remember we wanted to celebrate your engagement? That's what we'll do, dear. We'll make a nice supper for both of you, and we'll open a bottle of wine.
All right. No one!
Mortimer, what is going on in this house?
What do you mean, what's going on in this house?
You were supposed to take me to dinner and the theater tonight, and you called it off. You asked me to marry you. I said I would, and 5 minutes later, you threw me out of the house. Tonight, just after your brother tries to strangle me, you want to chase me home? Now listen, Mr. Brewster. Before I go home, I want to know where I stand. Do you love me?
I love you very much, Elaine. In fact, I love you so much, I can't marry you.
Have you suddenly gone crazy?
I don't think so, but it's just a matter of time. You see, insanity runs in my family. Practically gallops. That's why I can't marry you, dear.
No, wait a minute. You've got to do better than that.
No, dear, there's a strange taint in the Brewster blood. If you really knew my family, it's what you'd expect if Strindberg had written Hell's a Poppin'.
Now, just because Teddy is a little...
No, it goes way back. The first Brewster, the one who came over on the Mayflower. You know, in those days, the Indians used to scalp the settlers. He used to scalp the Indians.
Mortimer, that's ancient history.
No, the whole family. Take my grandfather. He tried his patent medicines out on dead people to be sure he wouldn't kill them.
Well, he wasn't so crazy. I mean, he made $1 million.
And then there's Jonathan. You just said he was a maniac. He tried to kill you.
But he's your brother, not you. I'm in love with you.
There's Teddy, too. You know Teddy. He thinks he's Roosevelt. No, dear, no Brewster should marry. I realize now that if I'd met my father in time, I'd have stopped him.
Now, darling, isn't this... all this doesn't prove you're crazy. Look at your aunts. They're Brewsters, aren't they? And the sanest, sweetest people I've ever known.
Well, even they have their peculiarities.
Yes, but what lovely peculiarities. I mean, kindness, generosity, human sympathy.
Ah! There's another one.
Oh, Mortimer, there are plenty of others. You can't tell me anything about your aunts.
I'm not going to. Look, Elaine, you've got to go home. Something very important has just come up.
Up? From where? We're here alone, together.
I know I'm acting irrationally, but just put it down to the fact that I'm a mad Brewster.
If you think you're going to get out of this by pretending you're crazy, I mean, you're insane. Maybe you're not going to marry me, but I'm going to marry you. I love you, you dope.
Well, if you love me, will you get the hell out of here?
Well, at least take me home, won't you? I'm afraid.
Afraid? A little walk through the cemetery?
Mortimer, will you kiss me goodnight?
Of course, dear. Good night, dear. I'll call you up in a day or two.
You critic!
And Abby and Martha, come in here!
We'll be in a minute, dear.
Come in here now!
Yes, dear. What is it? Where's Elaine?
I thought you promised me not to let anyone in this house while I was gone.
Well, Jonathan just walked in.
I don't mean Jonathan.
And Dr. Einstein was with him.
I don't mean Dr. Einstein. Who's that in the window seat?
We told you, Mr. Hoskins.
It is not Mr. Hoskins.
Who can that be?
Are you trying to tell me you've never seen this man before?
I certainly am. Why, this is a fine how do you do. It's getting so anybody thinks he can just walk into this house.
Now, Aunt Abby, don't you try to get out of this. That's another one of your gentlemen.
Mortimer, how can you say such a thing? That man's an imposter. And if he came here to be buried in our cellar, he's mistaken.
Oh, Aunt Abby, you admitted to me that you put Mr. Hoskins in the window seat.
Yes, I did.
Well, this man could have just got the idea from Mr. Hoskins. By the way, where is Mr. Hoskins?
He must have gone to Panama.
Oh, you buried him?
No, not yet. He's just down there waiting for the services, poor dear. We haven't had a minute, what with Jonathan in the house. Oh dear, we've always wanted to hold a double funeral, but I will not read services over a total stranger.
A stranger? Aunt Abby, how can I believe you? There are 12 men in the cellar and you admit you poisoned them.
Yes, I did. But you don't think I'd stoop to telling a fib. Martha!
Oh, Mortimer, I'd like to have a word with you.
Words about all you'll have time for, Jonathan, because I've decided you and your doctor friend are going to have to get out of this house just as quickly as possible.
I'm glad you recognize the fact that you and I can't live under the same roof. But you've arrived at the wrong solution. Take your suitcase and get out.
Jonathan, you're beginning to bore me. You've played your one-night stand in Brooklyn. Move on.
My dear Mortimer, just because you've graduated from the back fence to the typewriter, you don't think you've grown up. Don't think you've grown up. I'm staying and you're leaving. And I mean now.
If you think I can be frightened, if you think there's anything I fear.
I lived a strange life, Mortimer, but it's taught me one thing, to be afraid of nothing.
Martha, just look and see what's in the window seat.
Nap, Aunt Abby!
No.
Jonathan, let Aunt Martha see what's in the window seat. Aunt Abby, I owe you an apology. I have very good news for you. Jonathan is leaving. He's taking Dr. Einstein and their cold companion with him. Jonathan, you're my brother. You're a Brewster. I'm going to give you a chance to get away and take the evidence with you. You can't ask for more than that. Very well. In that case, I'll have to call the police.
Don't reach for that telephone.
Are you still giving me orders after seeing what's happened? Nope, that's you.
Are you still giving me orders after seeing what happened to Mr. Spinoza?
Spinozzo?
I knew he was a foreigner.
Remember what happened to Mr. Spinoza can happen to you.
Hello, Miss Abby.
Oh, Officer O'Hara. Is there something we can do for you?
I saw your lights on and thought there might be a sickness in the house. Oh, you got company. I'm sorry to disturb you.
No, come in.
Yes, come in.
Come right in, Officer O'Hara. This is our nephew, Mortimer.
Pleased to meet you.
And this is our another nephew, Jonathan.
Pleased to make your acquaintance. Well, it must be nice having your nephews visiting you. Are they going to stay with you for a bit?
I'm staying. My brother Jonathan is just leaving.
I've met you before, haven't I?
I'm afraid not. Jonathan hasn't been home for years.
Your face looks familiar to me. Maybe I've seen a picture of you somewheres.
I don't think so.
Yes, Jonathan, I'd hurry if I were you. Your things are all packed anyway, aren't they?
Well, you'll be wanting to say your goodbyes. I'll be running along.
What's the rush? I'd like to have you stick around until my brother goes.
I just dropped in to make sure everything was all right.
We're going to have some coffee in a minute. Won't you join us?
Oh, I forgot the coffee.
Well, I'd better make some more sandwiches. I ought to know your appetite by this time, Officer O'Hara.
Don't bother. I'm due to ring in a few minutes.
You can have a cup of coffee with us. My brother will be gone soon. Sit down.
Say, ain't I seen a photograph of your brother around here someplace?
I don't think so.
He certainly reminds me of somebody.
He looks like somebody you've probably seen in the movies.
Nah, I never go to the movies. I hate them. My mother says the movies is a bastard art.
Yes, it's full of them. Your mother says that?
Yeah, my mother was an actress, a stage actress. Perhaps you heard of her? Peaches Latour?
That's a name I've seen on a program. What did she play?
Well, her big hit was Mutt and Jeff. Played it for 3 years. I was born on tour, the 3rd season.
Where?
Yeah, Sweet City, Iowa. I was born in the dressing room at the end of the 2nd act, and mother made the finale.
What a trooper. There must be a good story in your mother. I write about the theater.
You do? Say, you're not Mortimer Brewster, the dramatic critic.
Yes.
Well, I certainly am glad to meet you. Oh, say, Mr. Brewster, we're in the same line of business.
We are.
Yeah, I'm a playwright. Oh, this being on the police force is just temporary.
How long have you been on the force?
12 years. I'm collecting material for a play.
I'll bet it's a honey.
Well, it ought to be, with all the drama I see being a cop. Mr. Brewster, you got no idea what goes on in Brooklyn.
Think I have?
Say, what time you got?
10 after 1?
Gee, I gotta ring in.
Wait a minute, O'Hara. On that play of yours, I may be able to help you.
You would? Say, it was fate me walking in here tonight. Look, I'll tell you the plot.
Oh, you're on your way. Good. You haven't got much time, you know.
No, everything's just about ready. Oh, you leaving now, Jonathan? Goodbye. Goodbye, Dr. Einstein. Say, doesn't this case belong to you?
Yes, Jonathan. You can't go without all of your things. Well, O'Hara, it was nice meeting you. I'll see you again, and we'll talk about your play.
Oh, I'm not leaving now, Mr. Brewster.
Why not?
Well, you just offered to help me with my play, didn't you? You and me are going to write my play together.
I can't do that, O'Hara. I'm not a creative writer.
I'll do the creating. You just put the words to it.
But, O'Hara...
No, sir, Mr. Brewster. I ain't leaving this house till I tell you the plot.
In that case, Mortimer, we'll be running along.
Don't try that. You can't go yet. You've got to take everything with you, you know. Look, O'Hara, you run along now. My brother is just going.
I can wait. I've been waiting 12 years.
I'm sorry I was so long.
Don't bring that in here. O'Hara, would you join us for a bite in the kitchen?
The kitchen?
Jonathan's leaving.
Oh. Well, that's nice. Come along, Officer O'Hara.
Sure you don't mind eating in the kitchen, Mr. O'Hara?
And where else would you eat?
Goodbye, Jonathan. Nice to have seen you again.
I'm glad you came back to Brooklyn, Jonathan, because it gives me a chance to throw you out. And for the first one out is your boyfriend, Mr. Spinalzo.
Look, Mr. Brewster, we can talk in here.
Coming right out!
Might have known you'd grow up to write a play with a policeman.
Get going now, all three of you.
Doctor, this affair between my brother and me has got to be settled.
Johnny, if you got trouble enough, your brother gives us a chance to get away. What more could you ask?
You don't understand. This goes back a good many years.
Johnny, let's get going.
We're not going. We're going to sleep right here tonight.
With the cop in the kitchen and Mr. Spinalzo in the window seat?
That's all he's got on us. We'll take Mr. Spinalzo down and dump him in the bay and come right back here. Then, if he tries to interfere...
Now, Johnny...
Doctor, you know when I make up my mind.
Yeah, when you make up your mind, you lose your head. Brooklyn ain't a good place for you.
Doctor...
Okay. We've got to stick together. Someday we get stuck together. If we're coming back here, do we got to take these with us?
No. Leave them here. Hide them in the cellar and move fast. Spinalzo can go out the same way he came in.
Hey, Johnny, come quick.
What's the matter?
You know that hole in the cellar?
Yes.
We got an ace in the hole. Come on, I show you.
Jonathan! Jonathan! Jonathan!
Yes, Mortimer.
Where have you two been? I thought I told you to get...
We're not going.
Oh, you're not? You think I'm not serious about this, huh? Do you want O'Hara to know what's in that window seat?
We're staying here.
All right, you asked for it. This gets me rid of you and Officer O'Hara at the same time. Officer O'Hara, come in here!
If you tell O'Hara what's in the window seat, I'll tell him what's down in the cellar.
The cellar?
There's an elderly gentleman down there who seems to be very dead.
What were you doing down in the cellar?
What's he doing down in the cellar?
No thanks, ma'am. They were fine. I've had plenty.
Now, what are you going to say to O'Hara?
Say, Mr. Brewster, your aunts want to hear it too. Shall I get them in here?
No, O'Hara, you can't do that now. You've got to ring in.
The hell with ringing in. I'll get your aunts in here and tell you the plot.
No, O'Hara, not in front of all these people. We'll get together alone, someplace later.
How about the back room at Kelley's?
Fine, you go ring in and I'll meet you at Kelley's.
Why don't you two go down in the cellar?
That's all right with me. Is this the cellar?
No, we'll go to Kelley's, but you're going to ring in on the way.
All right, that'll only take a couple of minutes.
I'll ditch this guy and be back in 5 minutes. I'll expect to find you gone. Wait for me.
We'll wait for him, Doctor. I've waited a great many years for a chance like this.
Got him right where we want him. Did he look guilty?
Take the bags back up to our room, Doctor.
Have they gone? Oh, we thought we heard somebody leave.
Just Mortimer, and he'll be back in a few minutes. Is there any food left in the kitchen? I think Dr. Einstein and I would enjoy a bite.
But you won't have time.
No, if you're still here when Mortimer gets back, he won't like it.
He'll like it. He's got to like it.
Get something for us to eat while we bury Mr. Spinalzo in the cellar.
Oh, no!
He can't stay in our cellar. No, Jonathan, you've got to take him with you.
There's a friend of Mortimer's downstairs waiting for him.
A friend of Mortimer's?
He and Mr. Spinalzo will get along fine together. They're both dead.
They must mean Mr. Hoskins.
Mr. Hoskins?
You know about what's downstairs?
Of course we do. He's no friend of Mortimer's. He's one of our gentlemen.
Your gentleman?
And we won't have any strangers buried in our cellar.
But Mr. Hoskins?
Mr. Hoskins isn't a stranger.
Besides, there's no room for Mr. Spinalzo. The cellar's crowded already.
Crowded with what?
There are 12 graves down there now.
12 graves?
That leaves very little room, and we're going to need it.
You mean you and Aunt Martha have murdered?
Murdered? Certainly not. It's one of our charities.
Why, what we have been doing is mercy.
So you just take your Mr. Spinalzo out of here.
You've done that. Here, in this house. And you've buried them. Down there.
Honey, we've been chased all over the world. They stay right here in Brooklyn and do just as good as you do.
What?
We've got 12 and they've got 12.
I've got 13.
No, Johnny, 12.
13. There's Mr. Spinozzo. Then there's the first one in London, 2 in Johannesburg, 1 in Sydney, 1 in Melbourne, 2 in San Francisco, 1 in Phoenix, Arizona.
Phoenix?
The filling station. The 3 in Chicago and the 1 in South Bend. That makes 13.
But you can't count the one in South Bend. He died of pneumonia.
He wouldn't have gotten pneumonia if I hadn't shot him.
No, Johnny, he died of pneumonia. He don't count.
He counts with me. I say 13.
No, Johnny, you've got 12 and they've got 12. The old ladies are just as good as you are.
Oh, they aren't they? Well, that's easily taken care of. All I need is one more. That's all, just one more.
Well, here I am.
Jonathan turns and looks at him with widening eyes as someone who has just solved a problem as the curtain falls. Act 3, Scene 1. The scene is the same, still later that night. The curtain rises on an empty stage. The window seat is open and we see that it's empty. The armchair has been shifted to right of table. The drapes over the windows are closed. All doors except cellar are closed. Abby's hymnal and black gloves are on sideboard. Martha's hymnal and gloves are on table. Otherwise, the room is the same. As the curtains rise, we hear a row from the cellar, through the open door. The speech overlaps in excitement and anger until the aunts appear on the stage from cellar door.
You stop doing that!
This is our house and this is our cellar, and you can't do that.
Ladies, please, go back upstairs where you belong.
Abby, Martha, go upstairs.
There's no use you're doing what you're doing because it will just have to be undone.
I tell you, we won't have it, and you better stop it right now.
All right, you'll find out. You'll find out whose house this is.
I'm warning you, you'd better stop it. Hasn't Mortimer come back yet?
No.
It's a terrible thing to do, to bury a good Methodist with a foreigner.
I will not have our cellar desecrated.
And we promised Mr. Hoskins a full Christian funeral. Where do you suppose Mortimer went?
I don't know, but he must be doing something because he said to Jonathan, "You just wait, I'll settle this."
Well, he can't very well settle it while he's out of the house. That's all we want settled. What's going on down there?
All right, now where's Teddy?
Mortimer, where have you been?
I've been over to Dr. Gilchrist's. I've got his signature on Teddy's commitment papers.
Mortimer, what is the matter with you?
Running around getting papers signed at a time like this.
Do you know what Jonathan's doing?
He's putting Mr. Hoskins and Mr. Spinalzo in together.
Oh, he is he? Well, let him. Is Teddy in his room?
Teddy won't be any help.
When he signs these commitment papers, I can tackle Jonathan.
What have they got to do with it?
You had to go and tell Jonathan about those 12 graves. If I can make Teddy responsible for those, I can protect you, don't you see?
No, I don't see. And we pay taxes to have the police protect us.
I'll be back down in a minute.
Come, Martha. We're going for the police.
All right. The police. You can't go for the police.
Why can't we?
Because if you tell the police about Mr. Spinalzo, they'd find Mr. Hoskins too. And that might make them curious, and they'd find out about the other 12 gentlemen.
Mortimer, we know the police better than you do. I don't think they'd pry into our private affairs if we asked them not to.
But if they found your 12 gentlemen, they'd have to report to headquarters.
I'm not so sure they'd bother. They'd have to make out a very long report. And if there's one thing a policeman hates to do, it's to write.
You can't depend on that. It might leak out, and you couldn't expect a judge and jury to understand.
Oh, Judge Cullumwood.
We know him very well.
He always comes to church to pray just before election.
And he's coming here to tea someday. He promised.
Oh, Abby, we must speak to him again about that. His wife died a few years ago, and it's left him very lonely.
Well, come along, Martha.
No, you can't do this. I won't let you. You can't leave this house, and you can't have Judge Coleman to tea.
Well, if you're not going to do something about Mr. Spinalzo, we are.
I am going to do something. We may have to call the police in later, but if we do, I want to be ready for them.
You've got to get Jonathan out of this house.
And Mr. Spinalzo, too.
Will you please let me do this my own way? I've got to see Teddy.
If they're not out of here by morning, Mortimer, we're going to call the police.
They'll be out. I promise you that. Go to bed, will you? And for God's sake, get out of those clothes. You look like Judith Anderson.
Well, Abby, that's a relief, isn't it?
Yes. If Mortimer's really going to do something at last, it just means Jonathan's going to a lot of unnecessary trouble. We'd better tell him. Oh, Jonathan, you might as well stop what you're doing.
It's all done. Did I hear Mortimer?
Well, it will have to be undone. You're all going to be out of this house by morning. Mortimer's promised.
Oh, are we? In that case, you and Aunt Martha can go to bed and have a pleasant night's sleep.
Yes. Come, Abby.
Good night, aunties.
Not good night, Jonathan. Goodbye. By the time we get up, you'll be out of this house. Mortimer promised.
And he has a way of doing it, too.
Then Mortimer is back.
Oh, yes. He's up here talking to Teddy.
Goodbye, Jonathan.
Goodbye, Jonathan.
Perhaps you'd better say goodbye to Mortimer?
Oh, you'll see Mortimer.
Yes, I'll see Mortimer.
Phew, that's all fixed up. Smooth like a lake. Nobody ever know they were down there. That bed feels good already. 48 hours we didn't sleep. Come on, Johnny, let's go up, yes?
You're forgetting, Doctor.
What?
My brother Mortimer.
Johnny, tonight? We do that tomorrow or the next day.
No, tonight. Now.
Johnny, please, I'm tired, and tomorrow I got to operate.
Yes. You'll operate tomorrow, Doctor, but tonight we take care of Mortimer.
But Johnny, not tonight. We go to bed, eh?
Doctor, look at me. You can see it's going to be done, can't you?
Ugh, Johnny, I can see. I know that look.
It's a little too late for us to dissolve our partnership.
Okay, we do it. But the quick way, the quick twist like in London.
No, Doctor. I think this calls for something special. I think perhaps the Melbourne method.
Johnny, no, not that. 2 hours, and when it was all over, what? The fellow in London was just as dead as the fellow in Melbourne.
We had to work too fast in London. There was no aesthetic satisfaction in it, but Melbourne, oh, there was something to remember.
Remember? I wish I didn't. No, Johnny, not Melbourne, and not me.
Yes, Doctor, where are the instruments?
I won't do it, Johnny. I won't do it.
Get your instruments.
No, Johnny.
Where are they? Oh, yes. You hid them in the cellar. Where?
I won't tell you.
I'll find them, Doctor.
Don't do that, Mr. President.
I cannot sign any proclamation without consulting my cabinet.
But this must be a secret.
A secret proclamation? How unusual.
Japan mustn't know until it's signed.
Japan! Those yellow devils! I'll sign it right away. You have my word for it. I can let the cabinet know later.
Yes, let's go and sign it.
You wait here. A secret proclamation has to be signed in secret.
But at once, Mr. President.
I'll have to put on my signing clothes.
You go now, eh?
No, Doctor, I'm waiting for something important.
Please, you go now.
Dr. Einstein, I have nothing against you personally. You seem to be a nice fellow. Take my advice and get out of this house and get just as far away as possible.
Trouble, yeah, you get out.
All right, don't say I didn't warn you.
I'm warning you. Get away quick.
Things are going to start popping around here any minute.
Listen, Johnny's in a bad mood. When he's like this, he's a madman. Things happen, terrible things.
Jonathan doesn't worry me now.
Ach, Himmel, don't those plays you see teach you anything?
About what?
Well, at least people in plays act like they got sense. That's more than you do.
Oh, you think so, do you? You think people in plays act intelligently? I wish you had seen to sit through some of the ones I have to sit through. Take that little opus I saw tonight, for instance. In this play, there's a man. He's supposed to be bright. He knows he's in a house with murderers. He ought to know he's in danger. He's even been warned to get out of the house. But does he go? No, he stays there. Now I ask you, Doctor, is that what an intelligent person would do?
You're asking me?
He didn't even have sense enough to be frightened, to be on guard. For instance, the murderer invites him to sit down.
You mean, won't you sit down?
Uh-huh. Believe it or not, that one was in there too.
And what did he do?
He sat down. Now, mind you, this fellow's supposed to be bright. There he sits, just waiting to be trussed up. And what do you think they used to tie him with?
What?
The curtain cord.
Well, why not? A good idea. Very convenient.
A little too convenient. When are playwrights going to use some imagination? The curtain cord.
He didn't see him get it.
See him. He sat there with his back to him. That's the kind of stuff we have to suffer through night after night. And they say the critics are killing the theater. It's the playwrights who are killing the theater. So there he sits, the big dope. This fellow who's supposed to be bright, just waiting to be trussed up and gagged.
You're right about that fella. He wasn't very bright.
Now, Mortimer, if you don't mind, we'll finish the story. Mortimer, I've been away for 20 years, but never once in all that time, my dear brother, were you out of my mind. In Melbourne one night, I dreamed of you. When I landed in San Francisco, I felt a strange satisfaction. Once more, I was in the same country with you. Now, Doctor, we go to work.
Please, Shawnee, for me, it's a quick way.
Doctor, this must really be an artistic achievement. After all, we're performing before a very distinguished critic.
Shawnee.
Doctor!
All right, let's get it over.
All ready for you, Doctor.
I've got to have a drink. I can't do this without a drink.
Pull yourself together, Doctor.
I've got to have a drink. When we walked in here this afternoon, there was wine here, remember? Where did she put it? Oh, look, Johnny, we got a drink. That's all there is. I split it with you. We both need a drink.
One moment, Doctor, please. Where are your manners? Yes, Mortimer, I realize now it was you who brought me back to Brooklyn. Doctor, to my dead, dear brother.
Ah, God.
There it is. Damn that idiot. He goes next. That's all. He goes next.
No, Johnny, not Teddy. That's where I stop. Not Teddy.
We get to Teddy later.
We don't get him at all.
Now we're going to work fast.
Yeah, the quick way, eh, Johnny?
Yes, Doctor, the quick way.
Hey, the Colonel's got to quit blowing that horn.
It's all right, officer. We're taking the bugle away from him.
There's going to be hell to pay in the morning. We promised the neighbors he wouldn't do that anymore.
It won't happen again, officer. Good night.
Yeah, I'd better speak to him myself. Where are the lights? Oh, hey, you stood me up. I waited an hour at Kelley's for you. What happened to him?
He was explaining the play he saw tonight. That's what happened to the fella in the play.
Did they have that in the play you saw tonight? Gee, they practically stole that from the second act of my play. Why, in my second act, just before the... Yeah, I'm better begin at the beginning. It opens in on my mother's dressing room, where I was born. Only, I ain't born yet. Huh? Oh, yeah. No, you've got to hear the plot. Well, she's sitting there, makeup, see? When all of a sudden, through the door, a man with a black mustache walks in, turns to my mother and says, "Miss Latour, will you marry me?" He doesn't know she's pregnant. Curtain. Act 3. Scene 2. Scene is the same. Early the next morning, when the curtain rises, daylight is streaming through the windows. All doors are closed, all drapes open. Mortimer is still tied to his chair and seems to be in a semi-conscious state. Jonathan is asleep on the sofa. Einstein, pleasantly intoxicated, is seated left of table, his head resting on tabletop. O'Hara, with his coat off and his collar loosened, is standing over the stool which is between him and Mortimer. He has progressed to the most exciting scene of his play. There is a bottle of whiskey and water and a water tumbler on the table, along with a plate full of cigarette butts. There she is, lying unconscious across the table in her lingerie. The chink is standing over her with a hatchet. I'm tied up in a chair just like you are. The place is an inferno of flames. It's on fire. When all of a sudden, through the window, in comes Mayor LaGuardia. Hey, remember who paid for that? Go easy on it.
Well, I'm listening, ain't I?
How do you like it so far?
Well, it put Johnny to sleep.
Let him alone. If he ain't got no more interested than that, he don't get a drink. All right, it's 3 days later. I've been transferred and I'm under charges. That's because somebody stole my badge. All right, I'm walking my beat on Staten Island, 46th Precinct, when a guy I'm following, it turns out, is really following me. Yeah, don't let anybody in. So I figured I'll outsmart him. There's a vacant house on the corner. I goes in.
It's cops.
I stands there in the dark. I see the door handle turn.
Johnny, it's cops.
I pulls my gun, braces myself against the wall, and I says, "Coming!" "Hello, boys. What the hell is going on here? Hey, Pat, what do you know? This is Mortimer Brewster. He's going to write my play with me. I'm just telling him the story."
You have to tie him up to make him listen?
"Joe, you better report in at the station. The whole force is out looking for you. Did they send you here for me?"
We didn't know you was here.
"We came to warn you, the old ladies, that there's hell to pay. The colonel blew that bugle again in the middle of the night."
Oh, from the way the neighbors have been calling in about it, you'd think the Germans had dropped a bomb on Flatbush Avenue.
"The lieutenant's on the warpath. He says the colonel's got to be put away someplace."
Yes, yes.
"Gee, Mr. Brewster, I got to get away, so I'll just run through the third act real quick."
Get away from me!
Say, do you know what time it is? It's after 8 o'clock in the morning.
"It is? Gee, Mr. Brewster, them first two acts run a little long, but I don't see anything we can leave out."
You can leave it all out.
"Who the hell is this guy?"
That's my brother.
"Oh, the one that ran away, so he came back."
Yes, he came back.
This is Brophy. Get me Mac. I'd better let them know we found you." We found you, Joe. Mac, tell the lieutenant he can call off the big manhunt. We got him in the Brewster house. Do you want us to bring him in?" "Oh, all right. We'll hold him right here." The lieutenant's on his way over. Jonathan, so I've been turning in, eh? All right, you got me. And I'm supposed you and that... What's happening? I suppose you and that stool pigeon brother of mine...
Jonathan's line is just written wrong.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that's my line.
Sorry.
It's okay. So I've been turned in. All right, you got me. And I suppose you and that stool pigeon brother of mine will split the reward.
Lord.
Now I'll do some turning in. You think my aunts are sweet, charming old ladies, don't you? Well, there are 13 bodies buried in their cellar.
Teddy!
What the hell are you talking about?
You'd better be careful what you're saying about your aunts. They happen to be friends of ours.
I'll show you. I'll prove it to you. You come to the cellar with me.
Wait a minute.
13 bodies. I'll show you where they're buried.
Oh, yeah?
You don't want to see what's down in the cellar?
Go on down in the cellar with him, Abe.
I'm not so sure I want to be down in the cellar with him. Look at that puss. He looks like Boris Karloff. Hey, what the hell? Hey, Pat, get him off me!
Here, what do you think you're doing? Smack.
Well, what do you know about that?
Come in.
What the hell are you doing here? I told you I was going to handle it.
Well, sir, we was just about to...
What happened? Did he put up a fight?
This ain't the guy that blows the bugle. This is his brother. He tried to kill Klein.
All I said was he looked like Boris Karloff.
Turn him over.
We kind of think he's wanted somewhere.
You kind of think he's wanted somewhere. Oh, sorry. Oh, you kind of think he's wanted somewhere. If you guys don't look at the circulars we hang up at the station, at least you could read True Detective. Why, certainly he's wanted somewhere. In Indiana. He escaped from the prison for the criminal insane. He's a lifer. For God's sake, that's how he was described. He looked like Carlo.
Was there a reward mentioned?
Yeah, and I'm claiming it.
Oh, sorry. He was trying to get us down into the cellar.
Said there was 13 bodies buried down there.
13 bodies buried in the cellar. And that didn't tip you off that he came out of a nut house?
I thought all along he talked kind of crazy.
Oh, it's Shakespeare. Where have you been all night? And you needn't bother to tell me.
Yeah, I've been right here, sir, writing a play with Mortimer Brewster.
Oh, well, we're going to have plenty of time to write you that play. You're suspended. Now get back to work and report in.
And can I come over sometime and use the station typewriter?
No! Get out of here! Now take that guy somewhere else and bring him too. See what you can find out about his accomplice. That guy that helped him escape. He's wanted too. No wonder Brooklyn is in the shape it's in, with the police force full of flatheads like you falling for whatever kind of story. 13 bodies in the cellar.
But there are 13 bodies in the cellar.
And who are you?
I'm President Roosevelt.
What the hell is this?
He's the fellow that blows the bugle.
Good morning, Colonel.
Well, Colonel, you've blown your last bugle.
Dear me, another yellow fever victim.
What?
All the bodies in the cellar are yellow fever victims.
No, Colonel, this is a spy we caught in the White House.
Will you just get that guy out of here?
If there's any questioning of spies, that's my department.
You keep out of it.
You keep forgetting. As president, I am also head of the Secret Service.
Captain, I'm Mortimer Brewster.
Are you sure?
I'd like to talk to you about my brother Teddy, the one who blew the bugle.
Mr. Brewster, we ain't got to talk about that. He's got to be put away.
I quite agree with you. In fact, it's all arranged for. I had these commitment papers signed by Dr. Gilchrist, our family physician. Teddy has signed them himself, you see, and I've signed them as next of kin.
Where's he going?
Happydale.
Well, all right. I don't care where he goes, as long as he goes.
Oh, he's going all right. But I want you to know that everything that's happened around here, Teddy's responsible for. Now, those 13 bodies in the cellar.
Yeah. Those 13 bodies in the cellar. It ain't enough that the neighbors are all afraid of him, and he's disturbing the peace with that bugle. But can you imagine what would happen if that cockeyed story about 13 bodies in the cellar got around? And now he's starting a yellow fever scare. Cute, ain't it?
13 bodies. Do you think anybody would believe that story?
Well, you just can't tell. Some people are just dumb enough. Well, you don't know what to believe sometimes. You know, about a year ago, this crazy guy starts a murder rumor over in Greenpoint. And I had to dig up half an acre lot just to prove that.
Will you excuse me?
Good morning, Mortimer.
Good morning, dear.
This is Mr. Witherspoon. He's come to meet Teddy.
To meet Teddy?
Mr. Witherspoon's the superintendent of Happydale.
Aha! Come right in. This is Captain...
Lieutenant Rooney. Well, I'm glad you're here, Super, because you're taking him back with you today.
Hey, I didn't know that.
Not today.
Look, Elaine, I've got a lot of business to attend to, so you run along home and I'll call you up.
Nuts!
I had no idea it was this immediate.
The papers are all signed. He goes today.
Complete insubordination. You men will find out I'm no mollycoddle. When the President of the United States is treated like that, what's this country coming to?
There's your man, Super.
Just a minute. Mr. President, I have very good news for you. Your term of office is over.
Is this March the 4th?
Practically.
Let's see. Oh, now I go on my hunting trip to Africa. Well, I must get started immediately. Is he trying to move into the White House before I've moved out?
Who, Teddy?
Taft!
This isn't Mr. Taft, Teddy. This is Mr. Witherspoon. He's to be your guide in Africa.
Bully. I'll bring down my equipment. When the safari comes, tell them to wait. Goodbye, Aunt Abby. Goodbye, Aunt Martha. I'm on my way to Africa. Isn't it wonderful? Charge!
Good morning, darlings.
Oh, we have visitors.
This is Lieutenant Rooney.
How do you do, Lieutenant? My, you don't look like the fuss budget the policemen say you are.
Why, the lieutenant is here. You know Teddy blew his bugle again last night.
Yes, we were going to speak to Teddy about that.
Oh, it's a little more serious than that, Miss Brewster.
And you haven't met Mr. Witherspoon. He's the superintendent of Happydale.
Oh, Mr. Witherspoon, how do you do?
Oh, you've come to meet Teddy.
He's come to take Teddy.
Aunties, the police want Teddy to go there today.
Oh, no.
Not while we're alive.
Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Brewster, but it has to be done. The papers are all signed, and he's going to go along with the superintendent.
We won't permit it. We'll promise to take the bugle away from him.
We won't be separated from Teddy.
I'm sorry, ladies. It's the law. He's committed himself, and he's going.
Well, if he goes, we're going too.
Yes, you'll have to take us with him.
Well, why not?
Well, that's sweet of them to want to, but it's impossible. You see, we can't take some people at Happydale.
Mr. Witherspoon, if you'll let us live there with Teddy, we'll see that Happydale is in our will, and for a very generous amount.
Well, the Lord knows we could use the money, but I'm afraid that you
Now, let's be sensible about this, ladies. For instance, here I am wasting my morning when I've got serious work to do. You know there are still murderers here in Brooklyn.
Yes. Oh, are there?
It ain't the only his bugle blowing and all the neighbors are afraid of him, but things could get worse. Sooner or later, we'd be put in trouble of digging up your cellar.
Our cellar?
Yeah. Your nephew's been telling around that there are 13 bodies in the cellar.
But there are 13 bodies in our cellar.
If that's why you think Teddy has to go away, you come down to the cellar with us and we'll prove it to you.
There's one, Mr. Spinoza, who doesn't belong here and who will have to leave. But the other 12 are our gentlemen.
I don't think the lieutenant wants to go down in the cellar. He was telling me that only last year he had to dig up a half-acre lot, weren't you, Lieutenant?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, you wouldn't have to dig here. The graves are all marked. We put flowers on them every Sunday.
Flowers. Superintendent, do you think you can find room for these ladies?
Oh,
You come along with us and we'll show you the graves.
I'll take your word for it, lady. I'm a busy man. How's about it, Super?
Don't they have to be committed?
Teddy committed himself. Can't they commit themselves? Can't they sign the papers?
Why, certainly.
Oh, if we can go with Teddy, we'll sign the papers. Where are they?
Where are they?
He's coming around, Lieutenant.
Good morning, Mr. Klein.
Good morning, Mr. Klein. Are you here too?
Yeah, Brophy and me have got your other nephew out in the kitchen.
Well, sign them up, Superintendent. I want to get this all cleaned up. 13 bodies.
Sign right here.
And you here, Aunt Abby?
I'm really looking forward to going. The neighborhood here has changed so.
Just think of front lawn again.
Oh, we're overlooking something.
What?
Well, we're going to need the signature of a doctor.
Oh, Dr. Einstein, will you come over here? We'd like you to sign some papers.
Please, I must.
Just come right over, Doctor. At one time last night, I thought the doctor was going to operate on me. Just come right over, Doctor. Just sign right here, Doctor.
Were you leaving, Doctor?
I think I must go.
Aren't you going to wait for Jonathan?
I don't think we're going to the same place.
Hello, Elaine. I'm glad to see you. Stick around, huh?
Oh, don't worry. I'm going to.
Hello, Matt. Rooney here. Well, we picked up that guy that's been wanted in Indiana. Now, there's a description of his accomplice. It's right on the desk there. Read it to me. Uh-huh. Yeah, about 54, 5'6", 140 pounds, blue eyes, and talks with a German accent. Poses as a doctor. Thanks, Matt. Well, it's all right, Lieutenant. The doctor here has just completed the signature. Oh, is that me? No.
It's all right,
It's
Lieutenant.
all right, Lieutenant. The doctor here has just completed the signature.
Well, thanks, Doc. You're really doing Brooklyn a service.
Mr. Brewster, you sign now as next of kin.
Yes, of course. Right here?
That's fine.
That makes everything complete. Everything legal?
Oh, yes.
Well, Auntie, is now you're safe.
When do you think you'll be ready to start?
Well, Mr. Witherspoon, why don't you go upstairs and tell Teddy just what he can take along?
Upstairs?
I'll show you.
Now, no, Mortimer, you stay here. We want to talk to you. Yes, Mr. Witherspoon, just upstairs and turn to the left.
Well, Mortimer, now that we're moving, this house really is yours.
Yes, dear, we want you to live here now.
No, Aunt Abby, this house is too full of memories.
But you'll need a home when you and Elaine are married.
Darlings, that's very indefinite.
Oh, it's nothing of the kind. We're going to be married right away.
Mortimer, we're really very worried about something.
Now, darlings, you're going to love it at Happydale.
Oh, yes. We're very happy about the whole thing. That's just it. We don't want anything to go wrong.
Will they investigate those signatures?
Don't worry, they're not going to look up Dr. Einstein.
It's not his signature, dear. It's yours.
You see, you signed as next of kin.
Of course. Why not?
Well, dear, it's something we never wanted to tell you. But now you're a man, and it's something Elaine should know too. You see, dear, you're not really a Brewster.
Your mother came to us as a cook, and you were born about 3 months afterwards. But she was such a sweet woman and such a good cook, we didn't want to lose her, so Brother married her.
I'm not really a Brewster.
Now, don't feel badly about it, dear.
And Elaine, it won't make any difference to you.
Elaine, did you hear? Do you understand? I'm a bastard!
Well, now I really must see about breakfast.
Mortimer's coming over to my house. Father's gone to Philadelphia, and Mortimer and I are going to have breakfast together.
Yes, I need some coffee. I've had quite a night.
In that case, I should think you'd want to go to bed.
I do.
One moment, Witherspoon. Take this with you.
Well, we need the wagon. We won't need the wagon. My car's out front.
Oh, you leaving now, Jonathan?
Oh, yeah, he's going back to Indiana. There's some people out there that want to take care of him for the rest of his life. Come on.
Well, Jonathan, it's nice to know you have some place to go.
We're leaving too.
Yes, we're going to Happydale.
Then this house is seeing the last of the Brewsters.
Unless Mortimer wants to live here.
I have a suggestion to make. Why don't you turn the property over to the church?
Well, we never thought of that.
After all, it should be part of the cemetery.
All right, get going. I'm a busy man.
Goodbye, aunties. Well, I can't better my record now, but neither can you. At least I have that satisfaction. The score stands even, 12-12.
Jonathan always was a mean boy, never could stand to see anyone get ahead of him.
I wish we could show him he isn't so smart. Mr. Witherspoon, does your family live with you at Happy Dale?
I have no family.
Oh.
Well, I suppose you consider everyone at Happy Dale your family.
I'm afraid you don't quite understand. As head of the institution, I have to keep quite aloof.
That must make it very lonely for you.
It does, but my duty is my duty.
Well, Martha, if Mr. Witherspoon won't join us for breakfast, I think at least we should offer him a glass of elderberry wine.
Elderberry wine?
We make it ourselves.
Why, yes. Of course. At Happy Dale, our relationship will be most formal, but here, you don't see much elderberry wine nowadays. I thought I'd had my last glass of it.
Oh, no.
No, here it is.
Witherspoon toasts the ladies and lifts a glass to his lips, but the curtain falls before he does. The